We are all about facts, not fear, and providing information to keep you and your loved ones safe. And right before the break, we told you about a new model that predicts 200,000 COVID-19 deaths by October. Dr. Kohli joins us live. Hey, Doc. Now, before we get to viewer questions, can you explain what this new model means and why October? Very alarming.
Hi, Sam. So actually, it's the exact same model that we've been using all along. It's the IHME model, or the University of Washington model, that the White House has been using. The reason they changed their timeline was because we like to have a 4-month horizon because it gives us a long-term view. So initially, we were looking at August, if you recall, and that was because it was built in April. And now that we're in June, we're actually looking towards an October timeline. And what this tells us is that the death toll has actually been revised up by about 30%. By about 18%, or about 30,000 deaths. And the reason for that is because of changes in our behavior. The fact that some states are not doing social distancing and the fact that many states are opening up, that's really what explains why this model has been revised. So not a different model, but different numbers going into the model to give us these new projections.
Well, Dr. Kohli, I can understand some people's frustrations that first the model says one thing, then it says another. How are we supposed to keep up, and at what point do we lose trust altogether?
So that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked, and I have two things to say about that. The first is that no model is perfect. So a model, by definition, is an educated guess based on science. So it's not necessarily going to be 100% accurate all the time. But the second and more important point I want to make is that models are meant to change. So it's not that the model is wrong, but it's what we call an adaptive model, which means that as the inputs or the things you're putting into the model changes, the numbers that it gives you coming out will change. So the most important input that's changing in this model is our behavior. And what the authors of this model have done is actually looked at cell phone data to see that people are now being much more mobile than they were before. And so they've changed the inputs into the model, and they're actually predicting these new projections based on that. And then the final thing I want to say is that the models are not meant to predict the future. They're actually meant to show you what could happen in the worst case scenario so that you can change your behavior today and actually never have that happen. So a good model is never actually achieved. It's a little bit of a catch-22.
Interesting. Now, of course, Dr. Kohli, we're getting lots of comments for you. Are you ready, Doc?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
I'm so ready.
I know you are. Come on now. Cecilia says, I've seen a lot of talk about the different phases of opening the states, but how many different phases are there? And why not just decide open or close? That's a great question.
It is. So, Cecilia, I like to think about it as slowly pushing your boundaries, waiting for 1 or 2 weeks to see what the virus does, and then pushing your boundaries some more if it's staying in check. So if you're a dancer, Cecilia, I'll use a dancing analogy. It's like a slow dance. So you're slow dancing here with the virus. You don't want to open the floodgates and just see what happens, because that could overwhelm our medical systems. You really want to move very slowly, and every state is a different part of the slow dance, so things go differently. And if you're not a dancer, then I'll use a swimming pool analogy. So it's sort of like stepping into the pool 1 toe at a time. The last thing we want to do with this virus is cannonball into the deep end, because that could overwhelm our medical system. So we want to push our boundaries very slowly and then be ready to pull back if we see that the virus is, acting up again.
I love your analogies, doctor. So are you a swimmer or are you the slow dancer?
I'm the slow dancer, Sam.
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm the swimmer. I swam in college. Erica, slow dancer or swimmer?
I'll go with the slow dance.
Doctor, thank you so much for all your information. You always break it down for us. We appreciate you. You will be back tomorrow. And if you guys have questions about the coronavirus you want answered by Dr. Kohli, write us on social media. You can also email info@dailyblesslive.com.